D, pronouns are they, them, from Iowa. D, you are on Talk Heathen. What is your topic today?
Hey, Dr. Ben. Hi, Scott.
Hi, D.
Yeah. So this is something that I've been working on in my life for literally more than 4 decades. And last year, late last year, was able to embrace my non-binary identity. And I've had
congratulations. That's a huge step.
Thank you for that, Dr. Ben. I appreciate that. But I'm so I guess I'm a little confused as to all my life, all my adult life. Well, no, I can't say that. In my 30s, early 30s, I came out as a lesbian. I had a 20-year relationship with another woman. We got married when Iowa legalized same-sex marriages. We've since been divorced, and I was a cross-dresser. I always dressed in men's clothes. I very consciously decided not to trans, although I did think about it very carefully. And one reason that I didn't was for religious reasons. I believed that God had created me as a woman, and there was a reason for that, so I decided not to change it. And now I'm definitely rethinking that now that I'm identifying as atheist and anti-theist. And I've had some trans people who are well into their transition and had, the surgeries and the hormone therapies, telling me that I'm basing my self-identity on is just kind of an extended tomboy phase, or...
See, I don't agree with that. I don't know what trans people you're talking to, but it sounds like they might be from the trans medicalist camp, which I do not accept as being valid. Essentially, for people in the audience who don't know, there's a there's a take from some trans people saying that you're not a real trans person unless you medically transition. And that is gatekeeping. That is not something that I accept. The definition of being a trans person is that you identify with a gender that is not congruent with your sex assigned at birth. And so that can include the umbrella as well of non-binary people, because most often these people are not assigned at birth as non-binary. So that would be a gender other than their sex assigned at birth. And it doesn't matter what you do with your body related to that. It doesn't matter any other gender expression. It doesn't matter your sexual orientation. None of that matters. If your gender identity is different than your sex assigned at birth, you meet criteria for being trans, and your identity is valid. So I'm not sure the specifics of where these people were going with it, but I do not agree with their position at all. If you are trans, you are trans. You do not have to prove that to anybody. And if you want to be a tomboy, if you identify as a tomboy, that's one thing. But if you don't, if you identify as non-binary, you are non-binary. End of story.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, because I'm you and Forrest especially have given me a lot of food for thought on this. And I'm physically attracted to women. So, does a lesbian identity overpower the non-binary?
Well, labels overly simplify everything, right? Like the purpose of a label isn't to confine you to a certain set of rules. Like a label in this case is a way for you to communicate with the world around you to say, this is who I am, this is how I would like to be treated. And so I don't want you to think of it as like, oh, I have to meet these criteria of being a lesbian and I have to meet these criteria of being non-binary. That's not at all what this is. You can take those labels, and your specific labels and your specific meaning of those labels might be different than somebody else's. I know non-binary people who still use the term lesbian because that's the best way that they can describe their sexual orientation. And I know other non-binary people who don't use that label because they don't feel it's accurate for them. And it's okay to clarify in conversation and say, you know, I'm using this label. Here's what this means for me. Like, I'm trans. Here's what that means for me. And that's totally okay. And I think people who are going to like legislate the labels that other people can use, as long as we're being clear about it, I think that's okay. And you can just say, hey, these are the terms that I'm comfortable using. Here's what I mean by these terms. And then that should be good enough. And your identity can change over time too. And your labels can change because even though you're who you are as a person, like the core of who you are might not change throughout your lifetime, your awareness of your sense of self might change, and certain aspects of how you communicate about yourself, how you present yourself in public, all of that can change over time. It's very dynamic. So I hope you can feel a bit more reassurance that like other people can't legislate how you use your labels to describe yourself.
Okay. You know, we actually got into that discussion because I've been considering saying I'm an untransitioned male, and that's when things kind of blew up. Is that a legitimate?
That's not necessarily a term that I would use, but there's different layers to transition, right? So there's medical and surgical transition, of course, which are commonly accepted as forms of transition, but there's also social transition. And if you've come out and you've said, hey, my pronouns are they, them, my name is this, and you've made some effort to change the way you are seen in society, that is a form of transition. So if you started to socially transition, you are transitioning. And not everybody's transition is the same. Not everybody does medical transition. It's not right for everybody. And you can't legislate what is enough transition. But as long as you are making steps to, you know, change the genders you are perceived, like that is social transition. And you can be a trans person and not transition at all and be in the closet, but you're still a trans person. And we call that a colloquial term. We call that an egg. It's like you're still in the egg and haven't hatched yet. They're still trans people, but they're just not openly trans yet. And they're still valid. So yeah, and it might take you a while to get familiar with the terminology that people use, but
yeah, that I definitely am in that phase, and I since October I have been very seriously considering top surgery, but then you have to go through all this gender dysphoria, psychological processes before most surgeons will even consider it. And I'm not sure if I'm at that place yet.
Yeah, and you have time to think about it. You have time to think about what the right things are for you. I do recommend for everybody to have a good therapist or a good counselor who is licensed and one who is affirming, because that's something that you can just sit with them and process everything that you're going through, process your emotions, process your developing sense of self. And whatever direction you take, you at least have some more reassurance of what the right thing is for you. And therapy is something that, you know, is super low risk if you're with an actual licensed, accredited therapist. And it's good for people who aren't trans. It's good for pretty much everybody to have a good therapist. So that would be something that I would start doing, not necessarily with the goal of I'm doing this just so I can get access to medical procedures, but do it just so you have somebody to reflect with and someone who can like affirm you and make sure you're in a direction that's safe mentally for you, and that there aren't other risk factors, you know, contributing to all of this. So I think it'd be good to look for something like that and kind of process this further before making big decisions. So
I had been out of therapy for several years because of insurance, and just gotten back in with someone I trust. So I will definitely take advantage of that and start talking to her about that.
Awesome. Love to hear that.
Thanks.
Scott, I know this conversation is a bit more of our end, but do you have anything to mention?
No. I mean, this is an area that I consider myself to be a learner. And so I was just like, I'm just going to shut up and listen. And I do want to say one thing to Dee is that I know you've called our shows for a while now. And I really want to, and I know I've said this before too, but I want to thank you for doing that. Cause you know, you're laying yourself out there, you're making yourself vulnerable, you're tackling issues live in real time. And I think what you're doing is really, I think there's going to be a lot of viewers that can identify with that. And so I think the fact your bravery is standing up in place of other people that either can't or are not at a point yet where they can talk about these things openly themselves. And so I just want to thank you for representing, you know, that particular perspective, because I think it's very important. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
A lot, Scott and Dr. Ben. I one of my goals is that there's somebody out there listening either today or will stumble on the video later on and have some hope after listening, get some courage, because Talk Heathen and Atheist Experience are directly responsible for me finding the courage to start speaking up. So if I can give back, that's great.
I love to hear that. And I know you're on the phone right now, but we gave you some love rings just a minute ago from the crew. And here's more for you, Dee.
I'll have to go back.
And the chat is blowing up too, and love for Dee too. So it's just you're getting love from all kinds of directions right now.
Yeah, and I can tell you that it's not an easy time. Yeah, and where you're at is not an easy time. It's a lot of self-reflection, a lot of thinking about things that kind of have been stirring for a long time, it sounds like. But almost every trans person and non-binary person has been where you are. So just know that you are not alone in that. There are other people in the chat here and in the Discord that also identify with your story. And I'd love to continue this if you have anything else to discuss in the Discord afterwards as well. And I'm sure people will jump in for support there too. Sure. But that being said, we are a little bit over, and I do want us to go over to the Discord. But do you have anything else to bring up right now?
No, I don't. Just whoever's listening, you don't have to take 60 years to find your identity. It's okay. You can start whenever you really, whenever you want. And thanks, guys. Yeah. Thanks a lot.
Hear, hear.
Absolutely. Thank you for your call, Dee. Talk to you next time.